Hello everyone from Sammy and I wanted to bring you, of course, your weekly update about how the shelter in place has been impacting real estate and also our mortgage industry. I didn't bring you one last week because there have been a ton of changes and some that are a little bit vague, so I wanted to get clarification before bringing you a new update. So our topics today are Sereno Group's COVID-19 Relief Fund, real estate is now deemed as essential, and the changes in the mortgage industry, trying to take into account the risk and uncertainty of our economy and how that could impact you, whether you're buying a home or need to refinance a home. All right, so let's get started. So I think most of you know that one of the main reasons I'm at Sereno Group is because of our commitment and involvement in our local communities. We are a locally owned brokerage, and I'm so proud that we have a 1% for Good program where we've donated over $3 million to local nonprofits. Usually we choose these each quarter. We do votes and we give grants, usually between $10,000 and $50,000. But we also have additional funds saved for times of emergency like these. I am so proud to say that we have sent out 10 checks this week alone to local nonprofits to help aid for immediate need. And if you know of any local nonprofits that really need help right now and that are serving our most vulnerable populations, let me know and I'm happy to give you more information on how they can apply and get a check sent out right away. Alright, so real estate has now been deemed as an essential service. This is new as of last week. And honestly, I felt a bit torn about it because they announced it in the state of California at the same time that they announced that the SiP would be extended and that there would be actually stricter measures for most industries, and a lot of businesses were taken off the essential list, such as construction for new housing, which was deemed as essential because we have a housing shortage. So when this first happened, I was concerned. I was concerned because I know that the California Association of Realtors had lobbied for it, but what I wanted to make sure was that we were always going to prioritize health and safety and, helping to contain this virus instead of focusing on selling houses, because your health and safety is always the most important. I think that a lot of us are starting to feel this first and second degree of people we may know that have been impacted economically, health-wise, and it's no joke. So I do want to tell you that even though there are some things that we are now allowed to do as essential, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't use our common sense first to make the best decision for ourselves and our families. So in terms of buyers, you are now allowed to see vacant properties with a maximum of 2 people at a time who live in the same household going to view the house, right? So that would mean 2 people could go in who live in the same house, but not at the same time as if you want to walk through with a contractor or a painter or get an estimate for something. Only 2 at a time. Or if there are more than 2 people in your family, you'd have to do it in shifts, right? So that is allowed, but technically you have to have exhausted any other option for viewing the home. So if there's a 3D Matterport tour or a video tour or a Zoom open house, technically you're not supposed to be going to see that house. And this is specifically in Santa Clara County. They're even more strict in San Mateo County, and they're actually giving out fines and tickets when they're finding people going to do showings. So this is serious, and I want to stress that. And I also would like to let you know my opinion on showings right now. I have asked all of my buyers to reevaluate this in 2 weeks to see how we're feeling. I know that the next week to 2 weeks are very critical for flattening the curve and seeing some better results with fewer cases of COVID here. So to me, I think that after the SiP is lifted, you'll also see a bunch of inventory come onto the market and you'll have more choice. And as a buyer, of course you want more choice and you want more options, and also to not have to compete over just a few properties, because we have seen inventory take a sharp decline, over 50% less than we usually would have at this point, and that we were seeing come onto the market pre-SIP. So a lot of people are holding that inventory, which means more choice for you after. All right, in terms of sellers, if you have a home that you are considering selling or need to sell, number one, nothing at all can be done unless the home is vacant. And that does not mean leaving for a day or two or an hour or two. That means absolutely vacant, no one living there. And in terms of the work that you can do to prep the house or to get it onto the market, really the way to think about it is want versus need. You might want to paint, you might want to have new carpet or change out light fixtures or do staging so that you can appeal to the most buyers. But none of that is technically needed. Nothing cosmetic is allowed to occur in terms of prepping the listings. So in terms of need, that's health and safety only. So that would include a gas leak, right? Or needing to put up carbon monoxide detectors, smoke detectors, if there's a big leak, things like that. They have to be related to health and safety and need. In terms of photography, I've heard a couple different stances on this. Some are saying that photography is deemed as essential, and of course that would be important to get it on the market, but others are saying, hey, you can take photos from your phone. So that is another gray area. We're dealing with a lot of gray areas here. If you do have additional questions on what is allowed versus not allowed, let me know. But like I said, what we're really prioritizing is to first and foremost make sure that everyone stays safe. This is a sticky virus, it sticks to surfaces. So obviously in a house, that's a lot of opportunity for the virus to be present on doorknobs, countertops, drawers, everything. So that is the update for real estate is essential. That will continue to unfold, but I think what this has really helped most are those who are already in the process of buying or selling a home and they were already in escrow and in contract, because now legally as realtors we are allowed to do our walkthroughs, to do our visual inspections, and those things that would have held up the process for someone to close on time. That's why I think it makes the most sense and has been the most beneficial. All right, in terms of the mortgage industry, I always explain to my buyers that when you're getting a loan, you have to remember that your lender is taking more risk than you are in purchasing the property, if they're usually putting 80% down, around that number, right? So they have to evaluate risk when they're determining interest rates, how the market is, what their expectations are for the economy, and just that you will of course be paying your mortgage. So at a time where there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unemployment, forbearance, which we'll talk about again in a moment, they need to price that in and also be very careful about the loans that they are extending. So what we're seeing as a result is, a lot of people are expecting interest rates to be bottom pricing right now, right? You're expecting them to be in the 2% range, of course, but we're not seeing that. We're still seeing interest rates in the 3s, sometimes the 4s, just depending on a myriad of factors. And why is that? Well, lenders have to price in for risk, and also there's an issue right now with liquidity in the market for loans. We've seen a lot of lenders actually temporarily shut their doors, not big banks so much, but more of the non-prime jumbo market. So jumbo loans are any loans that are above $765,500. And here in the Bay Area, that is most loans. They're mostly jumbo. And non-prime means anything outside of the box, so less than 20% down. Its credit score is less than 720 or 700. Those factors are going to be impacting the loans given out. And if a lot of those loan sources have shut their doors entirely, that means you have fewer sources to go to for those non-prime jumbo loans. I still have sources, so it's not an issue if you'd still like to buy. Just know that it's a little bit harder, and the pricing has been priced in for those who are willing to give those loans. In addition to that, even for the normal jumbo market for prime, 20% down or more, everything else looking good. What we're seeing is the guidelines have gotten a bit more strict. And I think a really good example of this is, we were seeing a lot of exceptions previously. So if you owned one home and wanted to buy a second, didn't want to sell it yet, they would overlook the debt, like Wells Fargo would do this for me very frequently, overlook the debt of the first property, knowing that you would sell it within 6 months, and still give you a loan on the second as if you didn't have the debt of the first mortgage. So exceptions like that, right now, all of those are on hold, not doing that anymore. And if you wanted to refinance, Wells Fargo is the #1 jumbo lender in the country, and a big change they've made is that if you need to refinance your home, you need to have $250,000 in an account with them if you want to do a jumbo refinance. That's a ton of cash, right? So that could be very restrictive for a lot of people. There are going to continue to be changes, and just a good way to think about it is if you had been pre-approved previously or were considering it or had spoken to a lender about a refinance, your qualifications may have changed. So it's good to speak to me and speak to them to make sure that everything still looks good. For all of my active buyers and borrowers, nothing has changed for them, but I've heard a lot of cases of people even being in contract already and the lender saying, never mind, I'm not going to give you this loan. We just can't do it anymore. And that's so stressful. We really want to avoid that, of course. One last thing I want to talk about is I did speak to forbearance last week. So forbearance is when you put a delay on your mortgage payments. And last time we spoke, it was 3-month delay. Now they're allowing a 6-month delay with an additional 6-month extension if you need it. They're not doing any background checks on this in terms of what the requirements are. So there are a lot of people who are calling to want to use it but might not necessarily need it. And what I would say is if you don't need it, probably best not to take it because we don't know the ramifications yet of this. It won't impact your credit, but they might put a note in your file that may make it a bit harder later down the line to refinance or get a new loan, and we just don't know yet. So I would say, make sure to leave this option for those who really need it, and if you are able to get by right now, then I would recommend getting by without doing forbearance, because remember, it only delays payments. It does not eliminate them entirely. And another thing to consider is for forbearance, you have a loan servicer and then there's an owner of that loan. You generally pay the servicer and then the servicer pays the owner. Right now, you don't need to pay the servicer if you take advantage of forbearance, but the servicer still needs to pay the loan owner. This is going to be really difficult for a lot of servicers, and a lot might go out of business, and it will continue to change the industry. At the end of the day, you need to do what is best for you, take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and like I said, if you have additional questions on this, please let me know. I am here for you as a resource to get through this time. I would just like to leave you with one thought, and that is, I think a lot of us know people, like I said, who've been impacted by this pandemic, whether it be financially or physically. And if you do want ideas for how you can support those people even though you can't physically be with them, which is so hard for many of us who want to support our friends and family, you can always send them something, and you can always send them something from a local business, a local florist that are still doing deliveries and shipments, or a local restaurant that's still doing deliveries or pickups. I know that I've sent oak and rye to a couple people because it's one of my favorites, and it's kind of fun to receive a surprise pizza pretty much at any time in life, but right now would be no different. So if you need some ideas, depending on where you live, of what is open and who is still doing delivery and pickup, let me know. I have a big resource list, and we will be launching a page on my website soon so that you can access that at all times for some fun ideas and resources during the shelter in place. I hope that everyone is staying safe, and having fun. I will be posting more pictures. We are gardening this weekend and planting tomatoes, peppers, and strawberries. I'm pretty excited to go outside. All right, have a good day, everyone.